Hi there Facebook, it's Kamal Fernandez here with an update of Heidi, the reactive dog that has been staying with me. Oh, I did have a coffee here somewhere. That arrived yesterday. I'm just going to see if anybody joins me and just give it a second to grab my laptop and then I'm going to give you an update about Heidi. Just bear with me. So I'll just give it a second to see if anybody joins so I can ensure that my sound is coming out. Excellent, excellent, excellent. So let's just make sure that I am coming out loud. Just give me a thumbs up to let me know that you can hear me okay, if anybody's watching. Those of you watching, I should say. Okay, so cool, I think I'm coming out live, so. Okay, perfect. So thank you all for those of you that are joining. So I just wanted to give an update, and I've just done a live in the deep dive, the Relabeling Reactivity deep dive, to give people an update about Heidi. So Heidi is a dog that has been staying with me, that arrived yesterday and was due to stay with me for a week to share some insight into how I go about dealing with reactivity and a dog that has reactivity challenges. I shared some video of Heidi in which you can see that she's clearly got some dog reactivity issues, and she's actually redirected onto her owners in various circumstances, so lots of challenges to overcome. So when Heidi arrived yesterday with her owners, and she was in my garden, in my home, first thing I'm doing is observing the dog generally, just how the dog moves, how it engages, because one of the underlying causes of reactivity could well be a physical issue. So the first thing I noticed was that Heidi was actually uneven in her movement. She was slightly lame on her rear leg, and as she stood still away from me, I could see that as I could see both her back legs, I could see very clearly that she had a lump on the bottom near her stifle. I could see a lump on that side of her leg, and I asked her owners, how long has that lump been there, and they said they hadn't noticed a lump before. It's not something that they'd ever been aware of, and obviously when I pointed out to them, they could see it quite prominently on her, but with her coat colour and her texture, you probably couldn't notice it just casually walking or watching her. So as professionals, sometimes, and as an impartial person, I can sometimes make observations, or, several, I'm sure people can relate. Sometimes, you can't see the wood for the trees when it's your own dog. So when you're dealing with reactivity, you certainly want to consider the physical aspect first and foremost. So, they said that it's not something that they'd seen or noticed, and when she was moving around, she definitely wasn't 100% sound in her movement, but I said, they'd come a long way. I was happy to try and work with her, and obviously raise that concern to them, and I said if there's any, if I felt any concerns about it, I would obviously, get in contact with the vet, etc. So that was fine. So I obviously introduced her to my dogs this morning via my fenced area. No problems there. Great start to what we were doing. And then obviously she was with me. Now, when she got up in the morning, she actually was lame on her front end, and I contacted her owners again and said, is there any other issues that you're aware of? Does she have lameness on her front end? And they said, no, that's not something that she'd ever done before. But obviously it made me question if there was an underlying issue between, that would explain why she was lame on the front end and the back end. It just seemed a bit of a coincidence. And obviously, as part of dealing with behaviour, we've got to be sometimes a bit of a Sherlock Holmes and investigate what's been going on. So at that point, I couldn't see anything obvious going on with Heidi, and she's definitely dubious about, being handled and touched and manipulated. So I was very cautious about how much investigation I wanted to, start pulling her around. I'm just trying to build a rapport with her. And with a dog that's clearly stressed by the changes, coming to a new environment, she's obviously got some confidence issues. I wanted to try and obviously establish a relationship with her first and foremost. So I was mindful about being super intrusive. But what happened was I had her in my living room, and I just wanted her to be around me and just start to rapport build, had some food, and I could see she kept on incessantly licking at the top of her leg. And really pestering it. So when I looked closer, there was a little wound, which clearly what's happened is I would suspect as an injury she's had, and she's opened that up and aggravated it. And she's definitely not sound on that front leg either. So I fed that back to our owners and I spoke to them, and we've been dialoguing throughout the day, in which I said, I'm going to contact my vets and possibly take her to the vet, because obviously I'm concerned about that hole. My vets unfortunately can't, are a bit pushed for time, and was stretching to try and fit me in for an appointment, and obviously they would have if need be. What I did was I sent some photos of Heidi, just to sort of get them to give me advice about what they thought was best. So in the interim time, what I've done is put a t-shirt on her to stop her irritating that injury. And in the interim time, my vets have got back to me and said that they think that it might need looking at and might need a stitch. She's already eaten, so we can't obviously take her today because of having food in her system. However, the decision I've made is I'm not going to work with Heidi anymore this week. I'm actually going to take her back to her owners tomorrow, or today. I'm going up there today, but I will be there for tomorrow to take her back. And I'm going to give her back, and they need to obviously explore what's going on with her physically. And I shared this on the deep dive to Reactivity, but I thought I would do it, on this, my main page as well, just to sort of talk about the importance of being aware of the physical well-being and health of your dogs that have reactivity challenges. And it's something that is so often overlooked. And what can often happen is, when you're living with a dog and you're, working with them daily, sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees. So it's always advisable to take that off the table first and foremost, to make sure that there's no physical challenges or physical issues that are contributing to the dog's behaviour. Now, I would say, with working at Heidi, there's definitely other issues going on with her behaviour that are causing her to be reactive. It's not solely the physical things going on. But what we definitely don't want to do is attempt to do any behaviour modification until the dog is feeling physically well in herself. So we want to rule out what's going on with her back leg. Why has she suddenly had that lump turn up? What's going on with her front leg? How long is that injury? Is that how she incurred that injury? And something that has come out in speaking to our owners is that she periodically jumps a 5-foot fence. And it certainly looks like, which would explain the graze on the front of her leg. And I suspect what's happened is that it's the flaps of skin is probably covered up. And when she's been here, she's, licked that out. Because she's a bit uncomfortable, she's aggravated that and opened it up. So the actual decision I've made is, obviously I'm not prepared to do any work with her in terms of movement, etc., because I don't want to aggravate that. The dog is probably going to be in a level of discomfort, and we want to first and foremost deal with that. So my vets have said that she's that they more than likely she will have to be have a stitch in that wound. And because she does have concerns about what also her owners have told me, is that she isn't good at the vet. So I don't want to now cause additional stress to her by bringing her to a new environment, having her, obviously we're starting to build a relationship. She's actually starting to warm to me, and she's actually, I've been using treats and I've been handling her and just letting her come to me, and that was going really, despite her discomfort, that's going really, really well, or has been going well. But I don't want to now take her to a strange location and jeopardise not only my relationship, but impose more stress on her. I'm not happy to do that. So when, you have dogs, I have dogs for residential training that have reactive challenges all the time. The first thing I would consider is the dog got anything physically untoward with the dog, and I want to remove that from the table. Often has happened in a couple of instances. The owners aren't necessarily aware or pick up on those subtleties for whatever reason. It's not about judgment. It's just for whatever reason those hasn't picked up, and sometimes just by highlighting it or bringing it to their attention, you can come up with a solution. So Heidi is now sporting, I'm going to flip the camera. You can see she's on my sofa. Oh, and she's sporting a t-shirt. Boop, boop, Heidi. She's fast asleep, bless her. Good. She's sporting a nice t-shirt. Good girl. Hang on, let me just... Yeah, she's just woken there. She had beady eyes open. She has sporting a t-shirt to stop her irritating that even further. And obviously she is going to be going back to her owners tomorrow. And they have been kept informed with hopefully, booking an appointment and getting her to their vet as soon as possible. It is something that can happen when you have dogs in for residential training or in my home. You see something that may not have been seen. And obviously in this instance, the little movement issues when she first turned up probably was more. And I suspect what's happened is that she's probably injured herself. And as a result of that, her behaviour is going to definitely be exaggerated or amplified. So first thing we want to do is make sure the dog is pain-free and comfortable before we go down the route of dealing with her behaviour. Now, I've said to her owners as well, obviously, I'm happy to work with them and once she's had some advice, so she's had some care. And I also suggested to them that they have a whole MOT done on her. Take bloods, etc. Really look at the dog and see if there is any underlying issues going on. For her to have certainly the lump come up on her leg randomly and sustain injury in the front is, it could be done in a million ways, but we want to make sure there's nothing untoward going on with the dog. Because she definitely hasn't had opportunity to do it here. She's been supervised, she's been on the lead because she doesn't have a good recall, so I've been taking her out on the lead in the garden, other than this morning when I had her milling around, and then I was with her, trying to think, and the only other time she's been, or the other time she's been in my living room, I've either been with her, or there's nothing in here that she could have done that to. So that would normally give you rise to, when you're working through that process, you want to use almost like a Sherlock Holmes mindset when you're dealing with a reactivity. Try to deduce, okay, what could have caused the problem? Is there, and then you can start to dig more. So if the dog has some, I was talking about an example with my own dog. She had a change of texture in her coat, and she would sit slightly with her legs slightly pointed out. Other than that, absolutely no problem, no lameness, nothing changed in her behaviour. Her temperament wasn't any different, but those little subtleties, and when transpires, I went to my chiropractor and she found that she had a couple of discs out and she had her pelvis slightly out. So obviously she treated her, she's absolutely fine. Now I'm obviously I've got some work to do to make sure that doesn't happen again. But it's something that, just that subtle change in her coat texture, it gave me information to move forward with. So when you're certainly working with reactivity, consider the dog's physical well-being and the impact it might have on their behaviour. It might be a coat change, it might be texture of the coat, it might be something really minor like a tiny little wound that the dog has sustained an injury. That might show, it might be something more. For example, in her instance, has she banged herself? Is there discomfort? Is there something more that we need to unravel to try and help the dog? Because if it's simply a case of removing the pain and discomfort, which will improve the dog's behaviour, that's going to help that process move forward faster. All right, so just wanted to give people insight into what's going on with Heidi. Now, fortunately, I do have another dog that I'm going to be working with this week and be sharing with you tips and techniques to deal with reactivity with a German Shepherd called Hudson. And the first session will be on Wednesday. So if you want to observe that, obviously not tomorrow because my plans have now changed because I'm going to be taking Heidi back home. But if you would like to join the deep dive, Labeling Reactivity deep dive on Facebook. Just go follow the link. I'll share it again in this comments. And you can be part of that where you can see me working with Hudson. Hudson's a German Shepherd. You may have seen him on my social media that I've had and done a couple of sessions with. I think now three sessions, one at the home, one here and one in a freedom field. So he's very much in the infancy of working through his reactivity challenges. He's now, I think, 7 months old, entering adolescence, so everything's now becoming more challenging. So definitely going to be a case that's going to be interesting to share some information about. But I just wanted to give people an update about Heidi as to why I won't be working with her. Obviously, that's thrown a bit of a curveball. That's what happens when you work with dogs. You have your best laid plans. You sometimes have to pivot. And I look forward to sharing with you Hudson moving forward for the rest of the week. If you're still interested in joining the group, there's still plenty of time. I'll share the link. The lives are going to be available all this week. and part of next week. So check those out if you want to have a look. They'll be available for you to watch if you can't attend the live sessions. But for me, I've got, as I said, I've got to get a source. I'm traveling up to near where she lives this evening. So I need to get organised for that. And if there's any questions on reactivity, pain related to reactivity, post them on this and I'll pick them up. All right, all, I love you and leave you. Whatever you're doing, be safe. Obviously, look after your dogs. Consider pain when you're dealing with reactivity. It's such an overlooked factor. And in the deep dive in into reactivity, last time I talked about pain being a huge, or physicality being a huge part of, a huge contributing factor to reactivity. So consider that as an option always. All right, guys, from me, I'm going to love you and leave you. Enjoy whatever you're doing. As I said, if you can join me on Wednesday, I'll post a time on my main page. And obviously, if you want to join the group, you can see the live session with Hudson. See you later, all. Take care.